Well, if you don't know me by now, I obviously have trouble staying focused because you just keep going and the path keeps forking and you don't know where it's going to lead. So I've actually taken myself into Revit only because I found a way to, obviously in the last couple of videos, upload into Revit 2021 Rhino, and then Rhino run Grasshopper, and then Grasshopper has its own ability to run the Revit primitives within it. So this is an incredible loop for me to wrap my head around. Um, excuse me. Um, but basically, I wanted to get into Revit and learn Dynamo and things like that, and I think I still might. And I was going to do the Archistar Academy Beyond the Essentials, and maybe pay for the membership and go a little deeper into that. But because of all this development, I mean, why not stay with my simple editing ability in Rhino and update directly in from the skills I have in Python? In Grasshopper, and certainly using the Ghpython nodes. So I'm going to go back to this Chinese text, and although I sidetracked there for a little while into C# because my Python Rhino Common skills weren't good enough to translate a lot of these little scripts, I'm just going to take some really basic scripts in Rhino script syntax like this one, domain U, domain V, and set it to your surface domain and your surface domain uh, uh, surface one, and basically be able to output them both. These functions that are coming out of here, surface domain, you can run a pretty cool script, which I have, which will show you how that's put together, or you can go in and try and find out how to come up with a surface domain from, let's see, going back into where I was under Rhino developers. So if you're going to deal with surface domain, you can grab your Rhino development. You can do around here. You could actually try and get into here and try and find some surfaces and dealing with that, or you can go in and just get back into the API, go into the Rhino Common, and try and track down where you think the surface would be. So running down here, I imagine I'm going to run into it sooner or later, surface class, and then try to find again how I can get in here and find out the domain. Not sure, how much time or how much I want to spend on this, because now, even though I was going deeper and deeper into this, I think I'm more excited right now to just take these scripts and start running them and building some cool geometries and maybe some architectures in the CAD program of Revit. So all I'm going to do is just become a little more articulate in here, have this wonderful ability to bring things to this type of structure. I'm going to be very playful with that, and keep it in mind that Grasshopper and Rhino are probably enough to do that with a little bit of some scripts, basic trips. So we're going to go here, and probably after this one, I may leave it running or I may not if I take it disable. Obviously, the whole thing's gone from there and gone from Rhino. I still have a surface to deal with. So what I may end up doing is turn the page on this type of stuff and get into evaluate surface and normal. So I will pull out another, probably very similar, even though I have to change a little bit of it. It might be easier just to grab this script, pull it out here, keep the same surface, which would be nice. And we'll do a little surface normal as I get into this. And since I left this, I've actually got some longer um, uh, longer video time instead of 15 minutes, so we could actually go through this. But one thing I want to make sure I do is stay pretty focused on here, that our first one we're doing under surface is obviously surface domain. So let's just keep a little organized here with a snipping tool. Sorry, not snipping tool, scribble tool. Let's just get in here and type in surface domain. And that will get us started. And then what I'll do is I'll take that and say, listen, we're going to try and develop a script that I can kind of cut and paste, but this will be a evaluate surface and normal. So let's put that in, evaluate surface and normal. And I still will try to jump in and use Rhino comments. So instead of this script coming in here and just keeping it simple, wherever I can, because I was making good practice of that, and I don't have to rely on the functions. Import Rhino dot geometry as RG, and what I also am going to do is port random just to make things interesting. Random, and I will import math. And I think that's it, and probably random needs to just be, I think that's all it needs to be. Maybe I should just double check that for a second. Import random. Don't see it. Maybe it is random. I can't remember. We'll get into it sooner or later. There's nothing really there that I want to play with, but it certainly might come in handy afterwards. So let's just run that one. And then this one is the one that I want to start altering, and I'll probably center point out. I'll play with this a little different because we're going to need the center point. Center point out. And we'll probably need the normal vector line out. So let's do that one as well. So maybe we'll do this together. Normal vector line out. Normal. Because I do have more time. Vector line. Sorry. Yeah. Line out. And it should be fine. And then I should be able to pull a point and a curve. So we'll just grab this one. And well, of course, the script isn't set up yet, so it's not going to do anything, but just screw up. And then I want to make sure I'm closing my other one. So let's open this one and get rid of what we had here. We'll probably be using the same information to start. Surface 1 and 2, so it's coming from that path script. Let's get rid of this. And I probably am just going to write this one the way it stands because I and see at times if I can break it down. So let's make u variable equal to domain u, and let's take from that list 1, should be the second value in the list, minus the domain. Now what's happening here? U0. Okay, this makes sense. Domain U0 in the list. So the first item in the list. So this is going to give us an average, I assume. And we're going to evaluate, I think, dead center. It kind of makes sense if you're thinking about evaluating surface as a node in Grasshopper. You'll need that division by 2. And then what's a nice thing you can do here is you can copy. I think you just hit paste and it comes up again. So you just do a copy at the end of the line. That's something I kind of found a shortcut for. I'm happy that I've done that. Let's go down here and change this capital V. We're still going to minus 1. And we're going to minus capital V. And then that's going to be done. And then we'll come down here and we will call it center point. This is right out of this Chinese text, so there's nothing really interesting happening here. The Rhino script evaluate. I could probably try and find a way to write this out in a longer form in Rhino Common, but right now I'm going to use the functions of Rhino script because I do want to see this how it plays out in REVIT, which is where I'm kind of going. So let's just use these attributes of that parameters within that function, and then let's do center point out, so we can at least send that to our output. Center point, what was that? Using the clipboard, I didn't mean to clip on that. Out, and we'll set that to center point. So that should take care of the point, and that's not too hard. That's like kind of making the evaluate surface tool with a multidimensional slider and just setting it at 0.5 and 0.5. If you've reparameterized your surface, I have to think I should be reparameterizing the surface, and that's exactly what I ended up doing at the beginning. So that's making sense to me. And then I've got to find the normal. So the normal is going to be dependent upon probably, well, I would have thought it would be something like a cross product vector or something, but let's see what they end up using. Rhino script surface normal is a function, so we may as well use it. And that will require a surface, and it needs its U and its V. And I think we're doing okay so far. And then the normal, let me just see if I can wrap my head around this, is going to be the Rhino script of vector scale. So I can actually change that scale, and that's a function that I haven't found a way to translate that because it's a Boolean, I think, in Rhino Common. So you've got to write more towards it to say it either works or doesn't work. And I'm starting to understand that a little more when I went into the C# program with long knowing. So the normal, and there's a default value of 5. I believe that's what that ends up doing. If you don't type anything else in, and of course it's not going to work if I spell normal. And then the start point is a new variable which will be set to the center point in case that changes. And then the endpoint will be a Rhino script function of copy object, literally moving it, object, and that will move it from, copying it from start point, and it will need the normal, which we calculated earlier, from the vector scale to 5. So I kind of understand what's geometrically happening in writing that. And normal vector line, sorry to just be typing from this, it's not too exciting when I'm not going off the cuff finding things out. And then add line is a function that works obviously in Rhino script, and that will just need a start and an end point. So let's put in the start point and the end point. Okay, and we're nearly done. All we have to do is take the normal vector line out and set that to the normal vector line. And if I've typed everything right, I should be able to run that, and we should come up with something. And I've done something wrong. So on line 15, endpoint. Oh, well, I didn't put an equal sign there, so that's not going to help me out at all. I believe that's going to solve it. And let's test it again. And evaluate surface in number 9. Evaluate. I'm always good at typing things up, and then I made a mistake on 10. Center point out equals center point. What did I type wrong in center point? Obviously forgot the capital P. So I'm very good at doing this. This is why I started the script in Visual Studio, where all these mistakes, because of the automatic finish, if you just type a couple of letters into something, it seems to change it. And here I am with surface normal in line 12. What have I done again? Surface normal, and there you go. Normal. Normal. There we go. Because my typing is just insane. And it will require, let me see, surface normal, surface. Oh, I didn't put these in a list. So I put in 3 items instead of a list here. So if I take these and actually box those up in the square brackets, I think we've got it. And boy, did I ever make some mistakes. So let's close that out. Let's take this surface, which is the one being used, and there it is on top of it. How fantastic. Now, what exactly happens in here? Nothing, unless I make that point appear, but I don't know if the point geometry is going to come in. It certainly works on my surface normal here. There's my UV lines, so that's nice, and that's finding the point, and the normal is a very small vector, I believe, here. Kind of hard to tell what's going on there. Let me take off everything else and see what I'm actually looking at. Take this and put it to invisible. So I've got my point and I've got my normal. And of course, if that's a vector, I've got to visualize the vector. So let's see what's happened here. Let's just throw that into a little display. So it's very good to actually know a little bit. Vector display here, and we will take the vector and we'll anchor it to this point. And the problem is probably, if I take this off, now I'm seeing everything. It might still be way too tiny, I believe. This might amplify. Sorry, I'm rambling around here. Amplitude. Let's take the vector, throw it in there, and throw on a nice big long number. See if I can't just see what's happening here. What am I doing wrong? My curve is there. Oh, something's going wrong. What am I doing? Why is my vector line out? Normal vector, line out. What did I do wrong? Normal vector line out. Should be running fine. Let me just hit stop and I'll figure out what. Good to go. Let me run it again. And There it is. And the problem I had, and I did take that extension up, so that was working. I spelled normal with a narmal instead of normal, so that was just a little typo that obviously it's not going to catch. So there's your little normal, and as you change this around, if we want to change the vector scale to, I don't know, 3, what happens to here? I don't think it, well, that's just scaling it differently, so you're not seeing anything different. That's not very exciting. I guess we could scale it up to 12, and then we wouldn't have to do the amplitude. Let's test that. There we go. So you're seeing that a little longer. I understand what that's going on. And then what happens if I don't divide this? What if I decide to divide that by 3.3333 and copy and change that by 3 to there? What's that going to do? It's going to shift it back here on the curve and drop it back into that percentage. So you can start playing with sliders in here if you want to divide it at a different rate. And it's kind of getting around, playing with Python, learning a little bit about it is avoiding working. It's not working in C#. It's not putting it into a plugin. You're actually writing within the Python script. And I think it's time I go back to it and learn an awful lot of the Rhino script functions, because now that I've got my head around Rhino Common a bit, and then C# and the complexities of that, it's going to help a lot if I can memorize some very basic Rhino script functions. So I thank this Chinese text that I'm using. I'm trying to do something creative with it, so I'm not actually sitting here just kind of, I guess, copying other scripts. But I guess that's why people make textbooks, so you can look at them and do studies. And I don't think anybody can really own a script like this. It's pretty basic in what it's doing. It will get more and more complex in their geometries. Like I said, I'll try and play with their geometries as I start to import math and import random. And that should be fun to start playing with that and seeing what's happening. So if we put in a random here or something like that, it could be fun. It's not going to be too exciting to evaluate a service with some maths. I probably would take those out and put those inputs in. So it'd probably be like, divide A, and I put in divide B. And that way I could go in here and I could put in my float values here and here. And we'll just do divide A. And we'll jump in here to divide B. Yeah, this is kind of how I work. I'm not that exciting a person. And then we'll just take a float 3.5, which will go between 0 and 10. And we do need to set that to type in float, which I forgot to do. And type in float. Keep in mind I do not want this to go to 0. So if I divide by 0, I'm going to have trouble. So let's just get here and just make sure we never divide by 0. And we'll copy that one again. We'll send that one up into here. And now we should be able to evaluate this script as long as I'm ready. Yeah, there we go. Now I've got the power to move that along this way and that way. And actually it starts to jump off of that surface, which is pretty wild. And this way I can divide this way and kind of, it's interesting how it kind of, I guess it just bends off, and like at the edge, it's like, I don't know where to go from the edge. So that's kind of interesting to think about what's happening there. I don't know if the visualizing vector comes into play at all in here. So REVIT's kind of boring for me. Oh, there it is. It's at least visualizing that that small vector on there. So that's good. Let's see if I'm moving that around. It is updating in REVIT. So I guess what I could do is take that vector line, which isn't very exciting, and I probably could just pipe it with something, just to give it a little bit of size, and we could throw a cap on it if we wanted to, but there it is. And we'll just take the radius and make it 3. And that's a little post grasshopper stuff, so there we go. And we'll just throw a little cap on there of, we'll just do a quick little quote 2, and that'll give us a capped in. There we go. We've got a little tiny nib knob that we can play around in. Nothing too fancy. The only reason it's kind of exciting to me is because I've never really played around in Revit before. So I have this little piece of geometry that I can bounce around on top of this, and I can have some parametric control in Grasshopper, and I can play with Rhino in Revit. So there you go. Kind of fun. As I divide it, see where that ends up going on the surface. Now, why you would do something like this in Revit, I really don't know. And it's playful, but trying to get my head around so many different things in a sense of trying to be creative. So evaluating surface in normal. That's about it. 20 minutes of kind of rambling away. Sorry for that, but when it's due and I'm in a Sunday night, this is what I turn my head into. Stay tuned.